If you want to ask any questions, it's not a problem. But have to go into each viewport, and I'm going to unlock the viewport, and I'm going to pick a standard scale. And normally I see all the scales. 2 to 1 is not sure why I'm not seeing them all. I'll tell you something that should work. If I click on options and go into my profile, on user preferences, default scale list. Alright, we have the metric or the imperial. And if I click on add here, I should see it. Let me just click on 1. We're going to use 2 to 1. Let's add that to the scale. Usually it pops up automatically, and I find that this doesn't always work. No. Okay, so it already exists, but why am I not seeing it? Apply. See if we go back here. I don't see 2 to 1. Normally you get either this list or you get the other list, and I find that normally I get the other list. 2 to 1. Oh, there it is. Okay. So 2 to 1. So now I just click here and pick it. Alright, see a change in size. And I'm going to pick this one. Now, actually, I'm going to go back because I see your dimensions are done in paper space rather than model space. They're unrelated. Alright, when we're working on the thing that's eventually going to be printed, we're working on our layout down here, right? In model space, if it's related to the model, like the dimensions are, they should be in model space. Alright, so I'm going to undo my scaling, and these dimensions that you have, which you may end up wanting to redo, but these dimensions, I want to push them back in the model space. I can do that up on the modify, and with this button, push them back in. Now, because I have 3 viewports, it's asking me which viewport do I want to push them back into, because it'll use the alignment and the scale and everything as it pushes it back. But it picked the right one, so I'm going to say OK. I'm going to pick on this viewport. Actually, I have to go back to paper space. I'm going to pick these dimensions here, and then push those back into model space. And it picked the right viewport. It's usually pretty good. You see them starting to show up in the other dimension. Alright. So now that they're all in there, that's the other thing that these tools do, is it sets up 3 layers. When you're using this tool here, it creates a viewport, and at the same time it creates 3 layers. And for every one of these viewports, so that it doesn't show up in the other viewports, I want to make sure the dimensions are on the right layer. So these dimensions out here, this one, this one, this one, and these 2. These should all be on the layer that was created for the right side view, which I should see here. No. So you used this tool. Well, actually, you don't have any 2D geometry here, do you? This view is okay. We're going to leave that view, but these 2 views, I'm going to delete these 2. And I guess we missed one there, but the dimension's kind of wonky anyway. Alright, let's use this tool and create 2 viewports. Before we do that, let's go into model space, line up our object here. So when I line this up, I want to make sure I'm picking on the geometry. And then I know I'm flat on the geometry when I go to the top view here. Now, you got lots of stuff in here.
Same
It's
like
a
that.
bit of a mess, eh?
I delete that a lot.
I'm looking for...
What should I do for a model? Like, 'cause I always get a lot of things. I don't know why.
Well, let me see if I can go back out here. Now that's two-dimensional geometry. Well, in your model you want to try and keep it as clean as you can. Just have one object. Really is a bit of a mess. Did you say you started it again?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was one of the models. Like,
In the,
yeah, when I was making like the 3 cylinders, I was making a hole and drap, but drap and drill, I don't know, like tap and drill.
tap and drill, yeah.
Yeah. And there was like a lot of lines. I don't know why. Like,
So have a look at this file.
yeah.
Okay.
If I
Or what I could do here, let's go back to the assembly because I don't want to lose this geometry, right? Because that's all good geometry. So if I click here, this layer, whatever it's on, I want to lock it so that I can't accidentally delete it, right? Everything else there is in paper space. And if I go back into the model, I should be able to delete everything except for the 3D solids. So I'm going to use the filter tool here. Let's go filter, erase. I'm going to go all. That should have selected everything. Alright, 127 objects were not in the current space, but it found 254 objects. One is in a lock layer. Okay, so I've got everything selected. Now I'm going to type, I'm going to lose this window here. Now I'm going to type R to remove objects from my selection. And when I remove objects, I want to filter for just the 3D solids, so I should be able to get, maybe they're not even in here. 3D face. You have everything on one layer, you think, right now?
Yeah.
On the viz layer?
Yep.
So let's go to the layers. Whoops. And we'll delete everything except for the viz layer.
It is not deleting except the locked one. Like that.
Yeah, it should delete everything except for
Yeah.
the locked one.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna get here. That should have slimmed it down a little bit, but it still looks like you've got two solids here. That's a solid. It looks like a duplicate of this one. That's a solid too. Can I
Actually,
delete this one?
I was getting problem like when I was doing alignment here.
Yeah.
I did one right. I don't know. I forget which one was right.
Oh, let's delete this one and we'll see what we got. Got a separate object down there too. Oh, and that should be part of the same solid here. Right? Looks like it hasn't been subtracted, and it hasn't been mirrored either. But this thing here looks like a 3D solid. Okay, let's. Not take this part out. I don't think we need that. This part is a duplicate of that one over there. So let's take that one out for a minute. This one here has got two things here. It's a revolved surface. So I'm going to delete the revolved surface. That will leave us with a solid, right? Now what else we got? We got this on here again, but we've got one here.
Yeah.
It looks like it's all in alignment, so I'm going to delete that one. And here we got yet another model.
Yeah, that looks good, I think.
That one looks good.
I think because it's aligned, right? Isn't it?
Oh, yeah, but you got another one over here, right?
Yeah.
This geometry here, I don't really have to worry about. I've created it.
Yeah.
I can forget about the assembly view, right?
Yeah.
I really just want to look at the model now and get one object for each one closely, you know, if it's all together, all the better. But one object here rather than all these other objects, and these look like duplicates. So I'm going to delete that one. And I don't think I need this one. Now, if I do a zoom, extent, Z, enter, E, enter. Well, I still got something over here. Now, this is the two-dimensional geometry.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave that. Don't have to worry about that. But I could take this geometry, and I could move it all a lot closer. But somewhere along the way we lost the rods, eh?
Yeah.
So we can bring the rods back in. I don't know why they got deleted, because they should have been a 3D solid as well,
Yeah.
or on the Viz layer. They could have been on some other layer, but leave that for now. Threaded rod link. Actually, you had another file here, didn't you? I downloaded. There was another one. Let's go back here. You sent me two files, eh? So there's three solids, right?
Actually, I was getting problem here. Otherwise, like,
Oh, yeah, I don't think I saw that in the other drawing either, right?
yeah, it is good.
So let's take the 3D solid. And we got those selected, so now we'll copy with a base point. Base point we'll use is 0, 0, 0. Go to our other drawing and paste that in. 0, 0, 0. I'm not sure where they came in. Oh, there they are. So that looks like two-dimensional geometry. I'm going to delete that. And these objects. We'll move over to here somewhere. A little closer. And then we'll rotate them around. So I'm going to hit the world coordinate system here. That should be my front. That looks pretty good. Something does look out here. Oh, it's the alignment of that hole, right?
Yeah.
It's not parallel with this surface here. We can fix that while we're here too. So I'm going to move these a little closer. And I'm going to go to view here so that I can do a two-dimensional move on them. See what it looks like from the side. It could still be a mile away. So here again, I'm going to hit here to line up X and Y. And then I can do a little move here. Now we're compacting the drawing, except for your two-dimensional solid there. We should now going to go back to world and southeast isometric. Zoom in. We're going to make that our home. So if I hit the home button, all right.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is take these and now start lining them up with your geometry. So I can do this with a 3D rotate. Where'd they go?
Dome.
I like to think. Let's undo that. And I'll pick the end of the part here before I do it. I thought I could use the grip that was in the middle, but so I'm using polar points as I line it up. Make sure you got polar turned on. Now I can see a 90-degree arc in there pretty visually. All right. And then you can take this and with a 3D move, we'll use the center of this. Oops. Try it again. So 3D move. The center of this circle. We'll line it up with the center of this circle. Alright, so they're in position now.
Yeah.
And then you can look at the front here. Where's that rod? The rod doesn't look like it's lined up very well anyways, right?
Yeah.
So let's, looks like it's out this way. So let's look at the top view there, and we'll line it up with some geometry, right? So I'm going to take this, and X and Y is lined up nicely. So I could just do a 2D rotate, grab a quadrant, and then R for reference down here in the bottom, or you just type an R, and then pick a quadrant and a quadrant, and now I can line up with the polar. Now it's nice and straight, right? Now it still may not be lined up with what I want, but now that I've got it lined up with at least the coordinate system, I can start working with it, right? So let's go back to our home position here. So if I look at the top, I've got to rotate it 90 degrees, and then I'm going to look at the front again and rotate it the other angle. All right, so I can, X and Y is lined up nicely, so I should be able to grab a grip and rotate and use polar points. Then go back to here and we'll look at the front view. Oh, it doesn't look like it's straight there, does it? So we'll straighten it out there at the same time. So Z and X is down here in the corner. So I'm just going to flip this to view, and then I can use the 2D rotate and grab a center and R for reference. So center and another center, and then line up with the polar. So now I'm squared up in all the different axes. This thing's got to rotate, I think, 45 degrees. So if I turn polar on and set it to 45, I can do that pretty quick. Rotate, grab any point, and it'll lock right on 45. And from this point, you could move it up a little closer. Get it up in the neighborhood. You got to fix your hole there though before we carry on, right?
Yeah.
So let's go to the shaded mode, and to get rid of the hole, I'm going to go in here and delete the surface. Delete surface. So that just filled up the hole, right? And we're going to line up our axes on this space using the 3 points. And then I'm going to move it. Actually, I don't even have to do that because I've got some geometry here I can use, assuming that this is all okay in here. Although something doesn't look right there. Oh no, now it looks okay. So I can just use that. Assuming that you created that, put it there, it should be parallel, right? So I'm just going to use that. A couple of quadrants on here if we've got quadrants turned on. Yep, turned on. Let's go back to 2D wireframe so we can see them a little better. But now I can use the center of the circle and a couple of quadrants to line up my UCS. X and Y is on the end of the hole. Cylinder, 0, 0, D for diameter, 5/16. And for the length of it, doesn't really matter, pop out a little farther. Doesn't matter what layer it's on either, because when I subtract it, it uses the original object to determine what layer it's going on. So now your hole's in there, right?
Yep.
And then you can use the 3D move to put that up, and you're in position. Now I see that this is still a separate object here, so you want to mirror that over.
Yeah, I did that, but didn't do that one.
Well,
It should be right here, right?
it looks, the geometry looks okay, but I need it on this surface.
This surface,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's do a 3D mirror. Click on there, and I should be able to grab a midpoint and a midpoint, and the third point we're going to go perpendicular to this edge back here. Delete sorts objects, no. Alright, now is that in the right spot?
No.
Let's go to world here and check it out. Looks like it is. Yep.
But it looks outside.
Well, that's a little longer, but that's okay.
That's it.
Yeah, because when I do the subtract, so subtracting from here, I'm going to press that and that, and now it's subtracted, right? And if I go into the shaded view, you can see a little better.
Yeah.
Alright,
That's good.
now, going around here, I noticed you got the hole, some of the hole geometry in there, but it's not quite protruding out. So let's see, why isn't it? It looks like it's in the wrong spot altogether. Alright. This geometry in here, it's still separate. I'm just going to delete it. We'll line up our geometry properly here. So in here, using the edges here, I just want to make sure I'm on the corner. Whoops. It looks like I am. Alright. So X and Y is lined up with the surface. I'm going to use the cylinder tool, and I want it at 0.5 comma, I forget. You want to get the sheets out of the printer over there? Morning, Chris.
Morning.
Shouldn't be too long here.
No problem.
Yeah. Printed kind of funny, didn't it?
Yeah.
But it's 3/4 of an inch in from the end. So 3/4. D for diameter, and it's 1/8. And I'm going to make it the depth that they're actually drilling. I'm going to move it out this way, so it's how deep? 3/8. Now, it's not quite in the right spot. It's flush with this surface, but I'm measuring from this corner. So I came in the 3/4, and it's perpendicular to this surface. So that's why I've created it where I have. And then what I'm going to do is take it and move it from here to the end of itself. I just know that if I look at it now, it's poking out the surface, right? Which is what I want. Now, where I want to start my 3/8 depth is not at the low point, not at the high point. I'm going to split the difference and go on where the center line is in this view. All right. So to figure out where that is, the easiest way is to use this tool. So this will look for the interference between this part and this part. That should be it. Yeah, see, it just created some geometry in there. It figured out where the two things can't be, right? And instead of deleting it, I'm going to leave it on there. And then if I go back to 2D wireframe, you can see I've got now a quadrant I can use. So there's the high point, there's the low point, and what I'm going to do is take this and with a 3D move, I'm going to take it and move it from here out to that midpoint, right? No, that's not the way I want to go. I want to go the other way, right? So let's move it again, or I can just undo that. I want to move it the other way. So 3D move, I'm going to move this. Using that quadrant, move it to that quadrant. Alright. So now it's 3/8 of an inch down that line to this surface here, that face, right? So this one here, I can delete. I don't need it anymore. But if I subtract it now, this isn't long enough to poke through all the way around. So I'm just going to take the end of it, take the arrow, stretch it out a little longer. Alright. Now when I do the subtract from this, oh, I don't want to subtract again. I want to put the end geometry on first. The drill point. So I zoom in here. We'll line up our UCS again using the middle of the circle and a couple of quadrants. Does that look right? Yeah, that looks okay. Now I'm going to work on X and Y. So I'm going to have to rotate this about the Y-axis. 90-degree increments is good. Now I can work on X and Y. So I'm going to have a line from 0, 0, out to the quadrant here. And then I have to have a line on up here. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. It's going to follow the x-axis along now, right? And rather than doing the math, I'm going to put on an unlimited length line here in the corner. So let's see. A for angle. I'm going to reference this line that I have here. And then put in, I can never remember, minus 31 or 59. I think if I'm going, this one, we'll just try it. Minus 31 I gotta try. Oh, that looks good. Alright, then I can use the fillet tool with a radius of 0, and I can trim this up. Then to be able to revolve it, I've got to make it into a polyline, so it's all one object. Join. And I take, whoops, let's see. So there's my object, and revolve. And I got to revolve it around the x-axis, which I could have picked, or I could do it that way.
So like in my drawing, like always I have got too much lines. I don't know why.
Well, if you're revolving something that's not a closed polygon, it's a surface. It's like taking a line and revolving the line around. And when you do that, it adds all those lines. So you can visually see that, oops, it wasn't closed. Right? You got to make sure it's closed. And if you had a polyline there, let's just create a polyline. Now, that's a polyline, but it's not closed, right? If I extruded it, let's extrude it. I can extrude a line. See all the lines I get?
Yeah.
Because when you extrude a line, you create a surface, right? It's a surface. It's like what you're looking at right there is like this piece of paper folded in half, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a surface. It has no real thickness. It's just defining a surface, right? It's not a solid. Now, if I go in here and modify this polyline, you'll notice that closed is right on the top of the list, right? Because it's not closed. If it's closed, then that won't be there, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's a good clue. Before you start to extrude it, do the edit. If you see closed sitting here, you got maybe a little gap in there. It doesn't have to be a very big gap. So when I closed it, it takes its best guess. It's not always a good guess.
Yeah.
This for that,
Yeah.
it's a pretty easy guess, right? But now as I extrude this, because it's a polyline, it's a solid, right?
Yeah.
So if you see all those lines popping up, you got an opening somewhere. You didn't quite get the lines connected. And that's why I use the fillet tool, because it will extend and cut at the same time and make sure that I have closed corners. It's surefire. So let's subtract that. Subtract from here. And we'll subtract that and that object. I didn't have to join them together because I'm subtracting them both, but now I got a hole in there, right? Now your geometry is all good. You're all lined up, except for this. Should I do that too? And we got to fix this, right?
Oh yeah, that's a big problem.
So this one here, I'm just going to move it in with 3D move. This object, and I'm going to use the center of the big circle here to line it up. We'll zoom in, and we'll use the center of this circle to line it up. Now that should be in there.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And it looks like you missed the hole there, which is good. That's a bad sign if you run into the hole.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if we go back to world and hit top or front, we'll line it up as it will be in our view later. All right, so now this object. This object looks a bit twisted as well. Let's look at the top view here. Yeah, it looks a bit twisted in a few
My
things.
chain
So,
links depend on this tool, right?
Pardon me?
My chain link is dependent on this tool, right?
your chain link
Yeah.
is what?
It's like a little bit dependent on this tool.
Depending on,
Yeah, if it's like this curve,
yeah.
it's not looks like STC or trying.
Oh, let's help. Well, let's sort it out first. So I'm going to, because 2D rotations are a little easier than a 3D, because you're only dealing with it this way. So go to world, right? Line it up with one of the faces of your cube, because now you should be square to where you want to be, all right? And we'll first rotate this object, and we'll use the center of that. We can use that point. Whoops, forgot to do the reference part. So we're going to use the center of that. Now, but R for reference. So we're going to line it up with the center of the part and the end there, and now I can line it up with a polar. So that lined it up this way. Now I'm going to look at the top because I can see it's still crooked this way, right?
Yep.
So I flip it over, and now I line it up in the other axis here. So before I do, I have to line up X and Y has to be here, so I'm just going to use the view tool. And we'll rotate this again. So you can use a quadrant. Quadrants work fine too. R for reference. Quadrant and quadrant. And line up the polar. I can go either way, it doesn't really matter. I'm not sure where I have to be.
Yeah,
But now I've lined it up in 3. Check on the other just to make sure it's square there too.
Yeah.
Ooh, looks square, doesn't it? Yeah, I think so. So I think we're all lined up. So now let's look at the whole part. Let's go to our home position here. And we've got to rotate it. Whoops. Home. Front. So I've got to rotate it 45 degrees. Right. And now I can do it pretty easy. rotate. I don't even have to pick on anything. Oops. But I need X and Y lined up here. Rotate. And it'll lock right on 45, or whatever the angle is. And then you can use the 3D move to put it right. It doesn't really matter where it is. I should have a square surface there. Let's see if that'll work. We still have to fix this geometry though. You got, I'm not sure what going on there. Got a chamfer that didn't work out too well or something. Let's go into shaded mode. And let's see if we can delete that surface. Or we'll fill it in or something if it won't delete. Yeah, that's okay. We can let's line up the UCS on the end of the part. Should have a center spot there and a couple of quadrants. Let's create a cylinder right there at 0, 0. We'll use the quadrant to determine the thickness, and we'll just come through to that depth maybe. Oops, that's not the right depth. That's okay, we can shorten it. So this object here, I'm just going to make it a little shorter. When you get down to the, actually I don't have to get in too far, because we're going to drill a hole in here later anyways, right?
Yep.
Probably take it away, so let's add that. So add to this, we'll add that, union. So I got a little hollow in there, but I don't think we have to worry about it. You still have to put the hole in, and I think we'll lose it when we put the hole in. So we want a cylinder on the end here. D for diameter, 5/16. And it'll come through to 4. So the Z value. There we go. That's not the right Z value. There we go. Now, tap drill size. 5/16, 18. Calculate. All right. 5/16. Subtract the pitch. 1 divided by 18. So that's your diameter. 2. I don't know whether you have a drill that size or not. You have a little drill chart here. You didn't bring your iPad, did you?
Just I took my stick and came.
Here, back of your book. Drills. $256. Letter F. 257.
Yep.
257. So we'll put another cylinder on here. D for diameter. 0.257. And pick that for my Z value. And I need another one. Same diameter. Same length. So 2 small ones and then 1 big one. So from this big object, I gotta subtract one of the small ones. Doesn't matter which one. Ooh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Let's move these two out of the way. But what I'm going to do here is subtract one from the other. Subtract from the big one, the small one. So that'll give me that tubular shape. If I was in the shaded mode, it looks like I'm open in the end. And I think that's just that little bit of, remember that cone shape you had in there before?
Yeah.
So it's like a little, like a little internal chamfer here. I think I can make a little solid here to fill that up. Torus. Yeah, it'd be round shape. That's and do another one. Same diameter, but actually from this diameter to here. Should do it. Alright, so subtract from this one. Subtract this one. Now I've got a little tubular shape there. Now I want to move it just a little bit because I have to bring it down this way a bit. And if I use the midpoint there, actually I could use this point and move it to there. And then do an add. Fingers crossed. I still got a little lip there, eh?
I think it looks okay, right?
Yeah, there's something. No, the hole doesn't go through.
Foam center protecting circle.
Tell you what we'll do. Actually, this makes it a little easier to get rid of that geometry in there. I'm going to put a cylinder on the end here, just a little bit bigger and a little deeper than that object. And we'll do a add. So this will add together. That filled up the hole. And now I've got the right diameter here on the end. So I'll use that and that, come out to the end, and do another subtract. Now I got a nice clean hole all the way through, right? Yeah. And this one here I'm going to put on the Viz layer, just in case you're looking for it later. Everything will be on the same layer, and now we'll move this into position with the 3D move. Alright, and before you move it, group it so they'll stay together. Now, 3D move, we should be able to put that right where we want it. We'll line it up right in the middle of that. Should be right there. You got a problem with an angle somewhere. And if you checked it with this tool, this is one object, this is another object. You got a little issue in there. Well, there's an angle out here somewhere. Could be the angle of this that we lined everything up with, or it could be the angle that you have in here.
I think we angle it have in here.
Well, let's I haven't done that part yet anyway, so leave it for now. We'll discover where the error is as you start to dimension up the detail drawings. Although we should be able to figure out, let's just check what the angle is here. Everything else looks pretty good. So I'll go back to angle between here and here. 135, so that one's good, right?
Yeah.
And in here, let's world front. Lines are not coplanar. And 41. So it looks like that angles out a little bit.
Yeah. It should be 1.5.
Well, it should be, depending on how you measure it, 45, 135. What you can do is line this up and put your UCS on this top surface. Maybe line it up with the end of the hole. You may want to put these things on different layers. Put this on a threaded rod layer, and then you can easily turn one object off so that you're left with just the body, right? And then, like, even if you had an extra one layer, like, you can do it this way too, and then you can always switch stuff depending on how you want to see it or not. But let's go to the viz, and we'll just make a copy of this. Viz 2. So the rod here, the rod here, and the rod here, and this, and this, and this we don't want to see for a while, so put it on the Viz 2 layer. And then you can take the Viz 2 layer and just turn it off. Now you can more easily work on here. But if you put your UCS down on this, just to make sure it's on the front surface, here, well, let's maybe go, here's your X, and your Y is up this way. And then you can move that to the center of the hole, because I think that's where your dimensions are from. Alright, then you can scribe some geometry out here, 0, 0. We have the polar on here. Well, no, actually 45 will work pretty good, eh? So now you can check out your geometry. You can put on some construction lines or something if you want, just to make sure that your geometry is in the right spot. So I think you're taking measurements from here and here and here. Should be able to hit the center of the hole there. Now, you got the geometry there? What do you got? So you're offset in this direction 3/8. So offset 3/8. Offset 3/4. And then from the end, 1.5 inches. 1.5. See?
Yeah.
And then, well, you could check out the other dimension here too. Offset 2 3/4. Well, it looks like it's out too. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's just.
Maybe this one too. No.
What am I doing here? What's wrong with those lines? Those lines were made on the bottom. That's why it's looking kind
It
of
should
weird.
be on the top.
Yeah. So these are all on the bottom. That's okay. We can move them.
Yeah.
NZ 1 inch, right? Now they're on the top. Now they look better. I was wondering why it was moving so wonky. So you're okay.
Yeah.
At least for the corner. All right, but the angle's out. So let's offset this other one here. Offset 1/2 inch, 0.5. And now you put one on an angle. And draw. Right at that intersection, so that's what you've got to saw off. So now you got enough geometry on there, you can make a little polyline. So snap from here to that intersection to that intersection. C for close, because we always want to close those polygons, right? And then you can extrude that polyline down. Alright, take it as far as you want because we're cutting it off. And then go here. So subtracting from that object, you're subtracting that. And now your angle's okay, right? Delete all your construction lines and your... Now, you can turn on your layer, see everything again. And I think we should see something there okay. So click on top. Zoom in. Look at that, nice parallel space, right? So now you got everything there. Now, going back to the chain link.
No, it's gonna be.
Well, when you take every piece, before you start creating the viewports, what you want to do is line the piece up with, I always do it, line up the front view first. So, we'll go back here. We'll spin this around a little bit. We'll zoom in on this object so I can see these three corners, 1, 2, and 3. Use the 3 point, 0, 0, 0, X and Y. Then you can click on top here. And that's what I'm going to see when I have my top view, right? Which is exactly what I want. So go to the chain link. Now, this is one of the reasons I suggested that you did it with the creating. We'll try it. So go here. We want O for orthographic and the current viewport. Oops. Not orthographic. Look here. UCS current 2 to 1, right?
Yes.
And you're gonna have trouble with the view center because I can't see the part. We could just leave it where it is, bring it into view later. Specify first corner viewport, so up in here somewhere, down in here. You can always change that later as well. So we'll call this FT link. When you do it in all of them, you're gonna have a front view for each thing. So this is the front view of the link. Now, let's zoom in so I can see it. And then we'll reestablish our 2 to 1 scale here. So that's where it's going to be. Alright. And then you use the same tool here, but we're going to go orthographic from this side and create our side view. And no other relevance. When you're only working with one object, it zooms in a little better. It's kind of awkward. That's why I suggested to everyone we make a new file for each one, right?
Yeah, but I know one.
Because then you can delete all the extra stuff. But
is it fine to like
well, you can still do it this way.
Yeah.
It's just a little more awkward when you get into this point.
Yeah.
Let's just put it here. First corner viewport here and here. And we'll call this RT link. And now it's just a matter of getting the geometry in there, right? So we should be able to zoom it in. Well, we can do this. There's the right side view. And you establish your scale here again. But you want to make sure that each view is in alignment. And this is where you'd have to do this extra step here. MV setup brings in a bunch of tools, and one of them is align. So you want to do a horizontal alignment, and you're going to use turns off the OSNAP. So you use the end point of that to line it up with the end point of that. And now they're in alignment, right? Now, if they're both too high on the page, not a problem. You can always take your viewports and you can move them down as low as you want, right? But now that you've got that part done, now this is another good reason for going back in here first and putting everything on a different layer, because it makes it a whole lot easier to turn things on and off. But in here, the next tool you would use is this one. You select these two viewports, and it creates two-dimensional geometry. All right. Now, if you get this stuff on different layers, then it's so much easier to work on. But you're going to delete all the stuff here in here that you don't need. So all this stuff up here. All right, and then you're left just with the two parts, but they're to scale. All right, it's two-dimensional geometry. It's not three-dimensional geometry. When you start dimensioning it, make sure that you now pick the proper layer. So this is the front view for the link. But see the way it created 3 views for each viewport? You get a dimension layer, a hidden layer, and a visual layer. And then you'll want to go in and use those filters we created. Thick. So you see it picked up, didn't pick up the all the layers there. Oh. Because you sorted by what was thick. You don't want to sort by what was thick. You want to sort by the layers that are thick. So let's change this. I delete that one. Delete row. Good. Let's create another one here by name. We want anything that has viz in the naming convention, right? Or anything with a PV. All right. See all the layers it's getting.
What's PV?
Profile. When you use that third tool, profile visual viz layer. That's what it stands for. This layer, I want to delete the row. Viz PV. Oh, that's the duplicate. I pressed the wrong one. I don't know how you fix that. Maybe just create a new one. Viz should be thick. So by name, it's the ones that contain VIZ and PV and border, all those layers, right? So now you can go in here, just do Control A, pick the thick one, and say, okay, and now all those layers are thick as they should be. Should be blue. And here I just want all the dim layers and centerline layers, but today we'll just worry about the dim layers. And should be red. By naming convention. So the hidden layers is really what I'm after. HID. See, now I'm getting different layers. But now when I'm working in this one, this is my front link layer, so I'd go to the front link layer, dimension layer, and add my dimensions on this layer, because then you don't see them in the other one. Do you have dim styles? Oh yeah, very good. So your dim style should be set front link. Why am I not seeing a dimension here already? Oh, because I got ZX here for some reason. Occasionally it gets twisted around. Just go here and hit the view button, and then you'll be okay. Well, that one's a little twisted too, so we hit the view button there too, because your dimensions have to go on the X and Y, right? So now we can dimension. Oops, in this view. Now they're a little big, right? And your dim style isn't set up for the number of decimal places.
Yep.
So let's make this current, and then go into modify. So if you're at 2:1 scale, then you want to make your dimensions half as big, right? 0.5. And primary units, we'll make them 2 decimal places. We'll suppress the leading zeros for inch drawings. And now this dimension, all I have to do is put it on the right dim stuff. Alright.
Yeah.
And we got everything square to the view and everything, okay? So I'm going to go here and go stop.